You got the Mac and Mac guys here on Birds 365, and we are lucky enough to get to talk to all-time Eagle great and the color analyst on the Eagles Radio Network for Birds Radio broadcast, Mr. Mike Quick. Mike Quick, how you hitting him this offseason?
Very inconsistent. But, Jody, I enjoy the game, so I play. And even when I don't play well, I like being outside.
Right.
Yeah,
I do.
That's yeah. No, maybe not today. It's a little windy today, Mike. So
today I will pass.
Winter came back in a hurry. I tried to get Mike on Friday, and he got back to me. He said, number one, I got a golf commitment. Number two, it's going to be 55 to 60 degrees.
Yeah.
I'm going to be on the course. Yeah. And then this weekend, winter came. Yeah, what the hell? 30 degrees. It's freezing out there.
It's going to be 70 later in the week, Mike. So you already got that locked up. Yeah.
Yep.
So,
looking forward to that.
Yeah, that'll help. All right. Now, Jody mentioned you're in a select group, all-time Eagles great. That's not a big club, but two guys can now officially we're in the club, but they can join it as retirees. You've been around Jason Kelsey, Fletcher Cox since they've been here.
Yeah.
Boy, to lose that level of production and leadership in a week, boy, this is going to be a new era of Eagles football.
Yeah, John, the production is one thing, but the leadership portion is the part that would really concern me, because when you look at both these guys, they are guys who are like coaches on the field. When I think about Fletcher, I think about like going into a battle or even a fight in the neighborhood, and you got your big brother there. Fletcher was that dude. Fletcher was the guy that made everybody secure, because Fletcher took no crap. He could beat anybody that lined up against him. And, BG was the guy that started all the noise because BG talked all the time. Well, Fletcher was the guy who would then have to come in and clean things up.
Yeah. Remind me, it's funny, Mike. There was this old Looney Tunes cartoon. The one dog would talk the you-know-what, and then the big dog would come in and finish it off. That's like BG. They're both big, though. But that's like BG and Fletcher.
Fletcher was the big dog who would come in and clean things up. And over the years, I've also watched him grow as a leader in the clubhouse. Like, he wasn't a guy that was always talking, but guys knew when he decided to talk, when he wanted to voice whatever needed to be voiced, then guys wanted to listen. Fletcher was that type of guy. Both these guys, I just think, and Kelsey, gosh, you can talk about Kelsey all day long. Both these guys, the production is one thing, but when you look at what Kelsey is able to do at the line of scrimmage, making sure that everything is in order when all the bullets are flying, but not only that, when you're talking strategy with coaches, he was one of those guys who could sit in the room with coaches and come up with the right plan, the right strategies, because he was just that deep as a player.
So, Mike, this year, these past couple of years, Nick Sirianni had those two guys to lean on. He could go to Jason Kelsey and go, listen, we need to clean this up. We need to get this guy straightened out. Can you talk to him? Same thing with Fletcher on the defense. Now neither one of them are there. Is he going to look for someone else to pick up that mantle and be his go-between to the players? Or does he just have to take it on himself? And with the end of the season that the Eagles had, and the sitting up in kind of an unknown spot as to whether he's going to keep his job or not, does Sirianni have the gravitas to become the unquestioned, don't have to lead on veteran players for leadership and be that guy for the Eagles by himself?
Well, regardless of what Nick Sirianni does, it's really important to have a football team, a club that's led by your players, that you don't have to police so much when you're a coach because you have those leaders. So I don't know where they go in terms of who that guy's going to be, who those guys are going to be, but you have to have guys on the team that when the coach is not there, these guys are showing you the way things are done. They're not talking so much about how to do things, but they're showing you the way things are done. And because of that, you fall in line.
Along those lines, let me ask you about a specific guy, because you just said, I don't know who that guy would be. Guess what? Neither do John or I. But one guy whose name has at least been tossed out there has been the Kobe Dean.
Yeah.
He's got that kind of personality.
Sure.
He's playing the position and going to have the green dot on his helmet, but he hasn't done enough on the field to merit that take control type attitude. How does he raise his level to be able to step into the shoes of like a Fletcher Cox as far as leadership goes?
Very simply, he has to be available. He has to stay healthy, because I think he has all the qualities to be that guy. And many times you want that guy to be the guy in the middle of your defense. And especially looking at this defense and what their style is going to be, you want that Mike linebacker, that guy in the middle, to be the guy who not only has the communicator from the coaches, but also has the ability to lead men. And I think Kobe has that type of personality. He's certainly a talented guy to play the position. The most important thing for me when I think about him is that he has to be available. He has to stay healthy. And if he's healthy on the field, I think he'll be productive. And he's the type of guy that you want to lead your football team.
Mike, the Eagles have been around, I said this earlier, the show, since 1933. So that's not a small sample size. And what stuns me is number one in the games played list is Brandon Graham, who will be back for his farewell tour, his 15th season. First Eagles player ever to play 15 season. Number two is Jason Kelce. Number three is Fletcher Cox. In this era of football, where we're starting free agency, we're starting the legal negotiating period today. How unbelievable is that? When you add in Lane Johnson, that core four, and how much of a luxury was that for Nick Sirianni? And he's talked about that. Nick has admitted that.
Yeah, Nick walked into a situation where he had a lot of talented players, leaders already in place. And I know it's helped him tremendously to have guys like the guys that you mentioned. But, man, it's like this day and era, it's crazy to see guys that play that long at one team. I think it's a credit to those guys. I think it's a credit to the organization that they understand, they see the value in these guys, not just in the production on the field and whatever numbers they're able to put on the stat sheet, but the value that a BG brings you, the value that a Kelce brings you, or any of those guys that you mentioned. There's so much value in guys who show these young guys. When young guys come into the league, when they come to an organization, you need those type of guys to show them the way things should be done. If you talk about chemistry, having continuity, having the way that we do things around here, those are the guys that you want to put out front so that the young guys can see that. So then the coaches don't have to do so much work. Big Dom and the guys who work around the team to shape the team, they don't have to do as much work because that's already set by the guys that the young guys are coming in and watching.
That's one place where the Eagles have not lost out. They still got Big Dom. That's a key to this offseason. All right, Mike, I want to tap into your expertise because it's something we haven't talked about in a while here on the show, but it's certainly something that I can get exercised about. Eagles wide receiver 3. This past year, it was Quez Watkins because the coach loved him, and he could really stretch that defense.
Yeah.
Didn't make a whole hell of a lot of catches, but oh man, when he stretched that defense and opened things up for the guys underneath. How much was that actually true? How much was the fact that the teams actually respected Quez enough to actually go, all right, the safety's going to cheat a half a step, and that's going to be the difference between Smith and A.J. Brown getting open on a slant route underneath. Was that just talk, or do you think that actually did help the two very good outside wide receivers for the Eagles, the fact that Quez Watkins can run really fast in a straight line?
I will say this. It's important to have that speed element that stretches the defense. But if you're not throwing the ball to that guy, then it's not going to really affect the defense. Why do I have to worry about his speed if he's not beating us over the top? I think any of those guys can beat you over the top. I think Devontae Smith, and we saw, especially early in the season, we saw AJ just taking the top off the defense over and over and over again. So it's not, and for me, you don't necessarily have to have a 4-2 guy to say he's going to stretch the defense. He's going to pull back the defense off. You don't necessarily have to have that guy. But what you have to have is a productive guy. And he doesn't have to be a 4-2 guy. If you're not throwing the ball down the field, the secondary, the defense is going to condense the way they play, and you're going to have more guys around the line of scrimmage and not so concerned about the deep ball if you're not a team that's going to throw the deep ball. Early in the season, I thought the Eagles were one of the better deep ball teams in the National Football League, and it wasn't Quez. It was the other guys.
Yeah. And that's part of the thing. I think the adjustment was you saw a lot of cover 2, Mike. You saw teams trying to take away that deep ball, and then the Eagles didn't adjust well. So I want to ask you about motion as a receiver, because that was a big narrative. Nick hated it when we brought it up. But the Eagles were bottom 5 in the league when it came to utilizing motion. They have been since Nick has gotten here. He doesn't believe in it that much, but he had Phillip Rivers who liked it when things were stationary. Jeffrey Lurie seems to have indicated there's got to be new ideas, fresh ideas. Kellen Moore has been a top 10 guy when it comes to utilizing motion. How does that help? How does it hurt receivers? Or is it just a bunch of eyewash, like Jim Schwartz would say? Kind of give us a education on that.
John, it is eyewash sometimes, but I think it's very effective. I'll go back to early in my career when Ted Marchibroda came to Philadelphia, and he started to move me around. And especially when teams are just lining up and trying to make sure that they take away a particular player. Well, if you get that player on the move, it makes things a whole lot easier for that guy to first recognize what the defense is trying to do, and then find soft areas in that defense when you're moving. I think it's really important to have movement. When you're just static, when you're just coming to the line of scrimmage and there's no movement, when you're just going to line up, snap the ball, and go on your assignment, I think there's less for the defense to think about. When you have the defenders thinking, when you have them having to make adjustments, you can get a step on them. And in this league, all you need is a step. All you need many times is a half step or a half second, just a half tick. If you can get teams, defenders to false step, if you can get them to slow down their movement or have to think about their movement, and I think motion will do that in many times, I think you're getting an edge just by that.
Yeah, the Kansas City Chiefs won 2 straight Super Bowls with speed in, speed out, Andy's corn dog motion. 2 consecutive Super Bowls.
What do you call it? Corn dog motion?
That's what Andy calls it. That's what Andy does.
Andy puts everything has to be a food. It's a burger. It's a burger. It's a corn dog. I didn't know that was his corn dog motion, but that makes sense.
Yeah. And somehow it never gets to be broccoli. Why are we not surprised? All right, Mike, there's been some pretty good rumors for the last 3-4 days about Saquon Barkley potentially coming to the Philadelphia Eagles. And the price is going to be very important. The Eagles have shown over the last several years they're not paying top dollar for running back. Or would they? For a guy like Saquon Barkley, you're an ex-receiver. You know, if you can run the ball, makes your life easier. You might not even get as many catches, but you could get that much more separation and make that many more big plays if a defense has to respect the running game. Is this the year how he actually breaks down and says, all right, I'll pay going rate for a running back?
Going rate. What is going rate anymore for running backs? If you look,
that's a good point. We got to wait and see.
When you look at the market and what's happened to running backs, it is a devalued position. There was a time when you had to have the best running back. Teams were trading their whole roster. What was the kid?
Ricky Williams.
Ricky Williams. Teams were trading everything to get that primo running back.
Go back to Herschel Walker way back in the day.
Even more so.
That is just not the case anymore. That is not the position that you put a lot of your resources into, because it's fast break football now. It's throwing the ball all over the place. And here's the thing. Look at the defensive side, because it'll tell you. On defense, now you're getting slot corners. You're getting 3 cornerbacks now that are highly paid. You're getting slot corners now that are highly paid. You're getting these hybrid linebackers. And all of that is because of the passing game and how open the passing game it is. It's not because of the running backs and having stud running backs that can run people over. You have to have running backs because you are going to run the ball some, but this is certainly a passing league, and everything that you see around the salaries, everything you see around personnel just tells you that this is a passing league, and that's where the emphasis is.
Yeah, and speaking of it being a passing league from the defensive perspective, Mike, how I guess surprised were you that the Eagles allowed Hassan Reddick and his agent Torrey Dandy to look for a trade, seek a trade, kind of see what their value is on the open market, but then doubled down and said, "Hey, Josh Sweat, yeah, you can do it too." These guys are productive pass rushers. In the case of Hassan, now Hassan's going to be 30. He's going to probably request about $25 million a year. So that one, okay, I kind of get. But Josh Sweat, what's Howie doing? We got a fly on the wall? Can you get a fly on the wall in NovaCare?
You know, I've said that many times. You know, what is Howie doing? But you know, this period of the year is usually when he shines, when he really shines and comes up with things that we don't expect, and he comes up with players. I don't understand, like you, what's happening with Josh going out, with Haas going out and talking to other clubs. I think you can you're in the position where you can match whatever clubs do if that's the route he wants to take. But Howie knows that you have to have those primo pass rushes in this league. And I would not want to see either one of these guys go, because I think they both still have a lot to give. I'm glad I'm not in that position where you have to try and weigh all of these different things and try and construct that roster in the best way that you can still affect the passer, because that's what it really, on the defensive side, you got to be able to affect the passer. Both these guys can affect the passer, and you need that type of talent.
All right, so here's my question for you on the defensive ends and the availability that the Eagles have given them. Hassan Reddick's going to turn 30 leading into the season, right? He'll play at 30 by the year starts, John. Do you?
Yeah, I think September 22nd.
You know who's a couple of months older than Hassan Reddick? Chris Jones. And the Kansas City Chiefs didn't bat an eye this week when they said, "Yeah, we'll make you the highest paid defensive tackle in the National Football League." How come we factor in Hassan Reddick's age when we go, "Yeah, but you can't pay him too much because he's almost 30"? The Kansas City Chiefs said, "Yeah, we'll pay as much as we need to keep you," to a guy who's actually a couple months older than Hassan Reddick. And there's more, you take more of a beating inside than you do outside. So if you're going to see wear and tear, you'll see it on a DT before you do on an edge guy. Why is Hassan Reddick's age as big a part of this evaluation as it seems to be for me, Mike Quick?
So I don't know if it is. I haven't heard Howie say that it's an age issue. So I don't know that. I think he's like so productive, and he's so hard to block off the edge. Most of the And a lot of it is just the size of Hassan Reddick. Because he's so quick, because he's smaller than, he's able to get leverage, get under those tackles, and his speed and his ability to bend around the edge just makes him so difficult to block. I don't know if that's an age issue. I think that he's still in play for the Eagles. Yeah, you got an opportunity to talk to other teams, but I think it just sets the market so that Howie can do what he does. And once he goes out and have a better feel for the market and what he needs to do, I think then Howie can shuffle the deck and figure out how to pay these guys. I don't think I'm hoping that neither one of these guys leaves, and I don't think they will.
Yeah, I mean, he did the same thing with Slay last year, Mike. He said, look, let somebody else be the bad guy.
Yep.
So if you go out and Randy Mueller, the ex-executive of the year, was on with us, he told us that, let somebody else be the bad guy. So instead of saying this is your value, go out and see what your value is. He's still under Eagles control. So it's not like he's a free agent and can just leave.
John, we've seen this before.
Yeah.
We've seen numerous times where, okay, test the market, but it really gives the Eagles an opportunity to see exactly what they need to do in terms of how much resources can I put in this area? How much can I put in that area? Okay, they're saying the market here is at X. So can I cover that X, and then still at Y, am I able to then give the resources over here that I need to give to make sure that I secure this part of my roster?
But if we want to come to last year with Slay, when they said, we might have to release you, Darius, unless you really want to get the extension. They got that done before free agency started, did they not, John? If I'm remembering the timing, that came together before ever legal tampering, illegal tampering, legal negotiation, whatever you want to call it, today's day. They got that done before, didn't they?
I don't remember. I have to double check when exactly that happened, but it was a weird situation where Slay and his wife Jennifer basically said goodbye to Philadelphia, and then all of a sudden they're back. So it was a very weird situation, but the aspect, I'll double check on the date when we get to the break, but the aspect of letting somebody else be the bad guy is to me the correlation, and that's a very good one. But I do want to bring up Nolan Smith with you, Mike, because I think he's part of it as well. And we didn't get to see Nolan Smith a lot last year. I think part of it, he had a bit of a shoulder issue, and he got that taken care of. But I want to talk some of these guys, and you've been around the Eagles for a long time, both as a player and a color commentator. Some of these young guys got to get in an NFL weight room, and they need that year to get ready. Is that fair to say or not fair to say?
There's no question that's fair. So these are grown men. Yeah. And some of these guys come in and they really don't have their grown man body yet. Yeah. And I think a year around just working in the conditioning and getting stronger is going to really help Nolan Smith a whole lot. So I think he was listed around 235 or so. And probably there are times when he wasn't quite that big. So getting up to like 240 and being around grown men for another year, I think is going to help him tremendously. He got some snaps, and you can see that there's something there, but we all know that some guys mature a lot sooner than other guys. And I think as he matures, you're going to see a different football player. We know the speed that he has off the edge. We know that he's a great athlete. So, yeah, I just think that, and it may take another year for him to fully mature, but there's a lot there with Nolan Smith.
Mike Quick, who's the best play caller you ever played for?
Oh, that's a good one.
That's a good one.
That's a really good one. So, I'll go back to the way when Ted Marchibroda came here, I think it was my third year in the league, the way he was able to understand the strengths of all of the players that he had and move us around and get a lot of production out of us. I think about that era more than any other time of guys who were calling plays. And that was, it would have to be Ted Marchibroda for me.
How good a play caller do you think the new Eagles offensive coordinator is going to be? You got a chance to see Kellen Moore up close when he was in Dallas this past year. He was out with the Chargers. A lot of things went wrong with the Chargers this past year, some of which I'm sure was on Moore's plate, but not much, if you ask me. How good a hire did the Eagles make with Kellen Moore as their new OC and play caller?
I think they made a great hire. I do. So let me back up. Before last season, my big concern was the coordinators, because when you lose Shane Steichen, when you lose Jonathan Gannon, because I thought both those guys were really good at what they did. And to lose both of those guys, and then you plug guys in who really hadn't done it yet to the magnitude that you need to have done. I had real concerns going into the season about that. And I think most of us did. And most of us talked about it, a little bit concerned about the coordinators. This year, I am really excited about the coordinators because I think both are guys who are proven in the National Football League, both have strong track records. And I think they both understand the game at this level and what needs to be done at this level. I look at Kellen Moore and 4 or 5 years that he had in Dallas. Their offense was always very dynamic, always motion, always understood how to attack the defense. There was so much that he did with those offenses down there. They were always a top 10 and most times a top 5 offense when he was calling the plays. So I think the Eagles did a fantastic job in bringing in coordinators this year. And on the other side, Vic Fangio, a lot of people talk about, it's the Fangio style, or it's, a Fangio disciple. Well, now you don't have a disciple of Fangio. You have the genuine article. And in that, I think you have a smart guy who's a seasoned guy who can do a lot of things with the talent on this roster.
He's Mike Quick, legendary Eagles receiver, does a tremendous job with our friend Merrill Reese, who also loves golf to a frightening degree.
He does.
So, yeah, hit him straight, hit him far, as always, Mike. But I'll leave you with this, and I agree with you. I had the same questions. I thought, and people who know me, I like Jonathan Gannon. I thought Shane Steichen had a unique feel for being a play caller in this league, and I thought both of them were going to be very hard to replace. But when I replaced them with Sean Desai and Brian Johnson, respectively, if that's Jeffrey Lurie, if that's Howie Roseman, if that's Nick Sirianni, a combination of 3, shouldn't you expect growing pains? Don't those guys deserve a little bit of rope? Because, I mean, everybody learned. Nick was a first-time head coach. Guess what? He had to grow. He had to learn. Shane had to grow, had to learn. Jonathan had to grow, had to learn. I shouldn't they have expected some of these growing pains?
Yeah, I think they had to, and they did expect growing pains. But, John, just think of how painful it was.
Well, it was painful.
The way they dropped off. John, listen, I saw you over there every weekend. So you felt it the way everyone else did.
Yeah.
The way this thing dropped off, you have to do something about that. You can't just stay put and say, okay, well, let's give them another round. There had to be some changes, and I think they made really good changes.
No, I had no problems with the coordinator moves they made on either side of the ball. Hopefully Mike Quick is right that they made 2 good hires with guys with much more experience than they did coming off their Super Bowl appearance. Mr. Quick, we appreciate you jumping in with us. My bad for not getting you on more frequently. I will reach out more. I'll check the weather first to see if it's going to be nice out, whether you will
always check the weather. Mac, enjoy talking to you guys, man.
Thanks, Mike.
Job.
Our pleasure. Thank you very much. And when the weather gets up to, as John said, later in the week, 65, 70, you know where you can find Quick. He'll be on this. He'll be on the 16th green.
You find Merrill there too, man. Merrill loves golf.
Both of those guys love to get out and play, and I just love Mike's sentiment. I like being outside. When in doubt, go outside. That's a really good attitude for life, especially for a guy who's a former football player. Yeah, they made a whole bunch of money playing outside. But then again, the NFL has all these domes now these days. We got too much stuff to do. We only got a couple of minutes left. Got to talk about legal negotiating today. Free agency starts in a mere matter of hours. Come back, I'll hold Johnny Mac's feet to the fire and let him tell me who's going to be the first guy, like I did with Jeff Kerr, what position is going to be the first guy will be linked to with an agreement either later today and or tomorrow. You got Mac and Mac on Birds 365 coming back to put a bow on the show.
Hi, I'm Jim Muehlbronner, Managing Partner at Del Val Insurance Group. Give us a call. We're a local, knowledgeable agency, not an 800 number. Go Birds!